But anyway, speaking of which, let's talk about Madonna, who's in the news again because she just did an interview with Interview magazine. So, of course, we got the highlights. One of the things that she is talking about is she's finally admitting why the biopic stalled over at Universal. And it's pretty much what I told y'all, budget issues. So, Madonna revealed to Interview magazine that a falling out with Universal Pictures is the reason her music biopic never went into production. The studio won a multi studio auction in 2021 to make a film about Madonna's life, with the pop icon on board to co write and direct the movie. Screenwriters such as Diablo Cody and Aaron Cressida Wilson were attached to the film over the years, while Ozark Emmy winner Julia Garner won the part of Madonna 2022 after a highly publicized audition boot camp. Yeah, because I remember they were saying that she put them through hell trying to get that part. You got to be able to sing, dance, do all the things. Get dance and sing, get up and do your thing. And she used to say to everybody. Now, she said, I was supposed to make a movie about my life. I worked on the script for 2 years and spent 2 years at Universal Studios with the line producers doing budgeting and casting. This is what she told the publication. We had a falling out, me and Universal, regarding budget because I've had an extraordinary life. I've had a huge life, so I needed a big budget. You know what I mean? Now, according to Madonna, she said they couldn't get their heads around the budget required to make a biopic about her life. I do wonder what the budget was going to be. Because here's the thing. If Lionsgate could put up damn near $200 million, including the Jackson estate, I'm going to put up the other 50. I'll say this. The alleged budget for Michael Jackson's biopic was $150 million. Then when they had to do the third act reshoots, I believe the Jackson estate came in and footed the rest of the $50 million. They've already made their budget back. They're close to $1 billion. So y'all don't think that Madonna and Michael Jackson are of the same caliber? I mean, they were two of the biggest icons at the time. I mean, of course, we had Michael, we had Janet, we had Michael, we had Madonna, we had Prince, we had Whitney Houston. That was your Mount Rushmore of big iconic acts at that time. Maybe we can even throw in Tina Turner, but that was like mid 80s. 84 when she came on Private Dancer, right? But anyway, so Madonna is on the Mount Rushmore of pop icons. For them to be like, oh yeah, we want a bidding war, but now we just doing it. Like, what was the purpose of y'all bidding to do this thing and you're not willing to foot the bill on a movie about one of the biggest female icons on the planet? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then also she said that, child, we was even willing to go to Serbia to film the movie. So that way they could cut the budget. But then the people that was part of the film, oh, you're not going to last 4 days in Serbia. And she's like, it's not like I'm on holiday. Like, my whole career has been about resilience and fighting and being able to push for the career I've had. Like, Madonna is one of the first, in my opinion, pop acts that didn't come from being a Nepo baby, that didn't come from being manufactured. She pretty much created the persona that she is. She literally a pull yourself up by the bootstraps pop star that created everything on her own accord. Of course, yes, she had help and had a team of people, but she created the persona that she created. It wasn't something that was brought to her by a bunch of people behind the scenes. She's not like Britney Spears. She wasn't a puppet. So yeah, so then she went on to say, maybe they just didn't believe in me. One of the first reactions was, we don't believe you'd stay in Serbia for more than 4 days. And I said, did you read the script? My whole life has been survival. I'm not going there for a holiday. But anyway, I was in limbo when that fell apart. And then Netflix reached out to make a series. That was a whole other long process because I couldn't use the script I had with Universal unless I bought it from them from an extortionist price, even though I wrote it. Don't ask. That's just the way it goes. I started trying to understand how making a series would work. It's a very, very different process. You have to meet a lot of writers and find the right showrunner, and I couldn't find one. This went on for another 8 or 9 months. I was like, good thing I have another job because I need to work. I need to create. I need to do what I was put on this earth to do. And I love the fact that Madonna is someone who doesn't just sit on her laurels being like, you know what, you put 4 decades into this career. You have an amazing body of work. Why don't you just do like all the other girls and just tour with the same fucking songs over and over? And I'm just glad that she decided, because I still have creativity in me. Who says that once you pushing 70 years old and I just got to get up on stage and sing La Isla Bonita for the 450th time in a different remix version, or Like a Virgin, or Like a Prayer, or any of the other big bops? I actually want to continue to create and give new music. So why not do that? Oh, speaking of which, one of my friends, because I was telling you that story earlier, that there was somebody who works with a friend of mine, Dengan Ardicchio, actually worked on the event that Madonna did with Honey Dijon, the little makeup situation at what was it, Macy's? Why did they refer to her as old frap? When they said, I was like, I was like, because I was like, wait, y'all trying to throw shade at Alison Goldfrapp? I live for Alison Goldfrapp. I'm like, what did she do to y'all? But then when they was talking about recently and she got a new album coming out, I said, I know y'all did not refer to Madonna as old frap. That is kind of funny though. But this is how my shady industry friends are. But anyway, so in regards to that, they also said, look, we definitely still need the biopic. I hope that Netflix, and I've said this for the longest, I understand they want to do a movie or whatever. Maybe the studios will change their mind because of the whole Michael thing. And I wish that was a follow. I don't know how long ago they filmed this interview or recorded the interview, but that would have been a great question to ask. Do you think after, this is what I put out there, do you think after now with the success of Michael that Universal will revisit the Madonna biopic and be like, you know what? So people have an interest in 80s icons like Michael Jackson. Madonna was just as big as Michael back in the day. She still has cultural relevance because she is one of the, as a friend of mine would say, shout out to one of my friends. How do I forget now? It's like one of my friends and I forgot his damn name. Angel, that's his name. One of my friends, Angel, where he says she is the last of the Elm Street children, and I do agree with that. When you one of the last of the Elm Street children, the last one standing, you still have some cultural relevance, and people will sit and try to throw shade at Madonna, but she definitely still has a chokehold on the world and still has impact culturally and on pop culture. So I don't understand why they wouldn't consider being like, you know what, let's do something with her. But now she is working with Netflix. And I've said this from the beginning. I don't think she should do a movie. I think her career, there's so much that went on in the 4 decades of her career, way more than what we got with Michael, if you ask me. And way more interesting than the stuff we get with Michael, because we ain't learned jack shit from that damn Michael movie, except y'all just want to use that as an excuse to just play the damn music. I definitely feel like we can get further with Madonna in regards of doing a TV show versus a movie. And I hope that they'll still keep Julia Garner to play a young Madonna. So I hope that works out, because I don't think, Universal owns her. But yeah, so now, and then also we have the studio that's supposed to be coming out season 2 at Apple. Madonna did film, they said 2 episodes. So I think it's going to be a double episode, and we'll get more tea regarding that. Like there's, the studio is like a mockumentary version of like Hollywood and that sort of thing. So seeing that play out, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that and how that whole situation works out. But I definitely hope that the biopic series on Netflix actually happens, which I believe it is, because now we can get into the interview with Interview, because when she recently did the interview with Interview, she got a little more candid, which this article that I use doesn't get into it. So let's get into what she had to say in regards of that. I don't know why I decided to share that, but let's go back to this and let's read what she had to say. So then she got into this whole thing about how it's a different process of how you put together a series. She said you have to meet with a lot of writers to find the right showrunner, and I couldn't find one. This went on for another 8 or 9 months, and said she had another job. Now, how she came up with Confessions 2, she said, I reached out to Stuart Price because I thought the world was in a very dark place and people needed to dance. I haven't worked with Stuart for a long time. We just done the Celebration tour together. But besides that, I didn't really see or speak to him for probably 15 years. You know, according to people, she has a habit of once she's done with you, she's done, and she moves on to the next thing. Now, they said we just done the Celebration tour together, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. What if we try to make Confessions on a Dance Floor Part 2 and re-enter the world of inspirational dance music? So I came to London and I went to his studio, and we were just playing around to see if there was magic between us. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life personally. My brother was very, very, very ill, and my stepmother, with whom I'd had a very traumatic relationship throughout my entire childhood, had just died. She said, it's hard for me to write a song about nothing. I have to tell a story. So I wrote about a lot of family trauma, and then we started making dance music. I came back and forth a couple of times, and then I said, okay, this is right. This feels good. So unless Netflix is going to call me tomorrow with a writer I like, I'm going to start going down this road. Of course, in the middle of the process, more than like 75% of the way through, we found a writer, and I was like, I can't turn back now. I have to move this up a bit. So that's what I did. And so now that they have a writer, they can work on that stuff. But I think that she should just solely focus on Confessions 2, with the possibility of also putting together this tour and then, you know, the biopic and everything else and going on. But I'm hoping that with the series, you have a showrunner, they handle everything, and she just comes on as a consultant and has pretty much and you know, helps out with giving ideas, whatever the case is. Madonna, I don't want you directing, because quiet as it's kept, your directing is I mean, let's stick to our strengths. The music and everything, that's your strength. The filmmaking stuff, leave that to the professionals. As long as you get to have a say so over what goes on creatively. Now, she said, so I wrote, in regards to the album, she wrote a lot of family trauma. And then we started making dance music. I came back and forth a couple of times, and then I said, okay, this is right. This feels good. So unless Netflix is going to call me tomorrow with a writer I like, I'm going to start going down this road. And she said, yeah, for sure. Because the writer said, I feel like the album was meant to be. And I do feel like everything happens for a reason. She said, yeah, for sure. Now that I've gotten through it, and so many very important things have happened to me along the way. For instance, I wrote a song with my daughter Lola. She approached me about writing a song together as a way to heal our relationship. It was a really important moment, and it solidified the idea that now is the time to make this record. Now, I want to focus on that, because she said that they wrote a song together to heal their relationship. And I definitely feel like where it says the reason why she's calling it Confessions 2 is because, yeah, everybody's going to dance, and how dance music is a threshold and it's about releasing yourself and feeling free and all the things that definitely helps with the sonically when it's coming to put together a dance record. But one thing people don't realize with dance music is about resilience. Dance music is about recital survival and that sort of thing. So it's like whenever you're dealing with a lot of stuff in your life, you go on the dance floor in the club and you just release all that negativity that goes on in your life, which is why there's been many times when I've gone through some shit. Whenever I would go to the clubs and I'm sweating out all those problems and everything, those are the times where you don't want the night to end, because it's just like, I just want to keep dancing. I just want to keep going. I don't want to have to deal with whatever issue that I'm dealing with. And I think that's what house music, that's what dance music, that's what the dance floor provides. But also when Madonna coming with from this substantial angle where she's like, I'm going to talk about things like the death of my brother. I'm going to talk about my relationship with my stepmother. I'm going to talk about my tumultuous relationship with my daughter. Who knew that she had some issues going on with her eldest child? But she said that that was a way for them to heal their relationship. I don't know what the name of the song is. I don't even know if she's revealed the name of the song that they worked on together. I mean, I did hear that she did work on something with Lola, but I'm looking forward to hearing what that song is and really getting into the pocket of the lyrics to understand like where Madonna's head is at today, instead of taking the lazy approach, which is what artists, a lot of the veteran acts do, the legacy acts, which is, oh, I'll just sit them and sing all my old songs and Y'all can just write, give me some coins and that's it. I was like, no, I get bored with that. When you're an artist, you should always create until you don't have it within you anymore. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so then she said that with all these symbolic things happened, all these symbolic things happened. My stepmother died. My brother was ill. My brother died. My daughter approached me. You know what I mean? And then I thought, well, it's like the script of my film. It begins with death and it ends with death, but there's all this life in between. Paradoxical subjects, obviously, but death is a part of life. It just feels like I had a lot to get off my chest. And then the writer says it starts off so fun, really showing that you started in the club world and you got where you are from the clubs. That's always in you, which is what we talk about on here. And she said that she has a song that's not on the record, which I'm hoping they release it some capacity, called What Will Save Me. She said, I did it with Arca and Stewart. We all talked about feeling like outsiders and how the club life and being on the dance floor make you feel like you're part of a community without saying anything. It saves you every time, whether you're feeling down, whether you feel like you can't get it right, whether you feel like a failure, whatever. Go out dancing because it will save you. I went through all the darkness at the beginning, writing these songs with Stewart, and then we went full circle. And I'm like, okay, now what happens? How do we go? How do we get out of this? What happens when you walk into a nightclub or walk on the dance floor or go to a rave? Because as I said earlier, it's like life is heavy, so it's like when you go to the clubs, it's like all the heaviness that's going on in your life, you leave that behind and you bring that here, and it always seems like that comes with full circle moment. We're dealing with the shit we're dealing with this current regime, because they ain't a goddamn administration, they're a damn regime. When you're dealing with the regime like the Trump regime, uh people don't want to be dealing with heavy shit right now. So provide them with an escape, whether it's a movie, whether it's a book, whether it's music. And I always feel like music is the perfect escape, especially when you're dealing with dance music. But dance music doesn't have to be shallow. It doesn't have to be like vapid. It could also be, there could be some substance to it. Style and substance. And then they also talk about her song Danceteria, where she said, so how the story basically goes, in 1982, did she have any money in her wallet? And she said, no, I didn't have any money. I was really a scavenger. I surfed, I lived in people's apartments. They would let me come and stay for a few months, and I would sublet someplace for 6 months. Then I would move again. I was constantly getting kicked out. I was living in a place that was illegal. What do you call it? Not a building you can live in, but a building you can work in. And I guess they were calling it like pretty much an office space or whatever the case was that she was kind of hanging out in. And she was like, it was in the garment district. I surfed around all those buildings because people were making clothes and creating fabrics and designing on them and painting on them. A lot of people had lofts in these buildings, so they ended up living there illegally, and they rented out rooms. If there was a weirdo living on one floor, I go to the next floor. If there was a guy making porno films who wanted me to be in them and was constantly knocking on my door and freaking me out, I would be like, I gotta go to another floor. And then then she gets into talking about Danceteria. And she said, I made a demo tape of everybody, and I was told there was a DJ named Mark Kamens. Everyone was like, you got to go there. You got to meet him. You got to figure it out and try to dress interestingly, because they won't let you in if you don't look interesting. I was like, oh, fuck, I don't have any interesting clothes. I was living in my dancer clothes because that's why I moved to New York to be a dancer. I probably look completely tragic waiting in line at Danceteria. That's when Martin Burgoyne came up to me. He was really cute, curly blonde hair, earrings up his ears, plaid gold shorts, Doc Martens, black frames, and a white t-shirt with a sweater vest over it. He's like, you look lost. And I was. He said, come with me, I'll get you in. And he just crashed to the front of the line. Everybody knew him. He said hi to everybody. The doorman opened the velvet rope. He brought me in, and my whole life changed. And obviously I went there a lot because I was figuring out a way to butter up to Mark Kamens. And it also goes to show, like, you know what? Stuff like this it was meant for you to be there at that time. So the universe is shifting things to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And then she goes on to say, he saw me as a complete stalker. Someone would say, there's Mark Kamens. And I go sit next to him and say, hey, I know you're the DJ here and I've been working on this music and I love to get a chance to play it for you if it's possible. He was cute and I was turning on the charm as much as I could. And he'd be like, you know how many people bother me about wanting to play me their demos? He left, but I kept harassing him. I just kept coming back. I made friends with Debbie Mazur, who was 16 when she was working there and lying about her age. She was going to the Wilfred Academy of Hair and Beauty Culture, and we hit it off right away. She used to put the elevator on hold, like press the emergency button and come out and dance with me. She had the most incredible looks all of the time. Her face was beat. Her hair was done. I kept going, damn, girl, how do you look so good? I have 3 pieces of clothing, and I don't even know how to do my makeup. But Debbie and Martin really shepherded me around, and eventually I ended up in a bathroom with Mark Kamens, and I saw him snorting that booger sugar. She said, he's dead now. I could say that. So I'm like, girl, you out here spilling people's tea. Wait, hold on, because I went down too far. That's what I hate about these videos. I mean, this thing, because I went down too far. Okay, so and then the writer goes, go on. She said he was a wonderful guy, but he did a lot of things people did in the 80s that they shouldn't have done. You know what I'm talking about? And then Ottenberg, who's the interviewer, was like, of course. She said, I started putting 2 and 2 together, and I was like, okay, he likes this, he likes that. So one day, me and Debbie got this idea that this is going to sound terribly manipulative. From the get-go, I was like, I'm making it. I'm going to be somebody. Nothing could stop me. I was paying attention to shit. I also realized that if you're partying, you're not paying attention to shit. So I never got into that either. I'm sure I was the only sober person at Danceteria. So anyway, I bought him some booger sugar in the bathroom, took him in the stalls, me and Debbie, and then she did admit she did some bumps. But she also said it hurt her throat. And I was like, this isn't a good idea for a singer. I want to have a job more than I want to have fun right now. So anyway, we made out. We did a little blow, and he agreed to listen to my demo. Is this too long of a story? No, please never stop talking. Is what Ottenberg said. So he goes, one night, Michael Rosenblatt from Sire Records was there, and he was in the DJ booth. I could go in the DJ booth now because we swapped saliva. And then they started laughing. Or should I do like... drag T Silverback. They both laughed and gasped. He does that shit, which annoys me. But anyway, so he said, so Amber said, you're hanging out, as they say. And Madonna was like, sure. I convinced him to play my cassette tape. Those days, you could play a cassette tape as part of a DJ rig. And then Annenberg asked, had he heard it yet? And then Madonna was like, he listened to over headphones. There were 2 DJs up there at the time, so he wasn't spinning. He listened and he got an idea. When he started mixing his set, he mixed it into a song. So, and then she was asked, do you know what the song was? And then Madonna goes, it could have been Curtis Blow or the Sugar Hill Gang or African Bambaataa. But so anyway, he started playing it and people kept dancing. That was the test. Did they keep dancing? And people need to realize that back in the day, even when I was old enough to go to club, or I shouldn't say old enough, because there was times when I wasn't old enough and I was going to clubs. But when the times of you would go to the clubs and all this other stuff, the ultimate test would be if they played your song and people were still dancing, it was a hit. If you cleared the dance floor, oh no, you better go back to the drawing board. But that was a lot of, back in those days, the clubs, the dance floor was the ultimate litmus test on if your song was a hit. Not the way they doing shit now. It was always, the clubs were always the ones that had their ear to the street, the movers and the shakers of what was hot and what wasn't. And so then they asked, right, do they keep dancing? Does it work? And then Madonna goes, yeah, does it work? It worked. And Michael was there. They were looking at each other and they were looking at me. I was in the DJ booth. He played it a second time later in the evening. And I went down to the dance floor and danced to it with Martin there watching over me like my guardian angel. And then they were asked, you're pretty popular at this point. You're kind of ruling. And she's like, no. And she was like, I wasn't popular at all. And then, she said girls threw drinks at her. I wasn't popular. I was irritating to everybody because I was a dancer and I wasn't dancing anymore. I would just go crazy on the dance floor, getting it out of my system by myself. And then people immediately think you're weird. And she's like, she forgot to take her medication or something because it was like, yeah, all that other stuff. So then eventually Michael brought me to Seymour Stein, and that's how I got signed to Sire Records. But getting back to Danceteria, obviously Martin was my bestie. He, Mark, and Debbie, and lots of other people. That became my community, my friend group. We were always together. That was one of the most fabulous times of my life. You were probably around or. And then Ottenberg was like, no, I'm turning 50 this month. And she said, oh, yeah, so then you came up post-AIDS craziness. And then Ottenberg was like, well, I came up in AIDS sphere. I moved to New York in 1998. So then it goes on and on and on. But I just wanted to tell y'all that specific story because it leads into Mel Ottenberg is who pretty much she did the interview with. I wanted to get the first name. But so, yeah. So that I just want to give y'all a bit of that so that way you understand the foundation of when you notice, when you look at the Danceteria music video, which you've seen a clip of it in the Confessions 2 mini movie that she made that she premiered at Tribeca Film Festival. Debbie Maisel reference, being in the bathroom, passing her cassette to the DJ, the Coke reference, like all of that plays into her history of how she got to where she is today. It all started at Danceteria. So the history and all of that, and her explaining that in the interview, I just want to give people context of that situation. But before we get up out of here, I don't know if y'all seen the photos, but I definitely did share a couple of them. Let's go through a couple of them while we're at it. I did show y'all this one earlier. There's the cover. Then we got this one. She looks good in these photos, though. And then I don't know what Madonna's obsession is with the cigarettes and everything in her pictures, but she does a lot of that. That face is snatched, though. And I love the stockings with the garter. This is interesting. She definitely looks like Rocco's mother in this photo. So yeah, and then of course she always does like that man outfit. I mean that man sitting, like when you sit and the man spread and that sort of thing. I do like this look though with the purse. It's giving like, I forgot who she calls herself in the interview. Well, I think she named the character that you see in these pictures. She named them Dee Dee, which is like some lady that likes to smoke cigarettes and listen to a lot of, they said a fun, hard-living broad who drank Prosecco, did her hair big, and blasted the Stones till we got kicked out. So basically that's, and I love the fact when artists do that, where they create characters and they channel that character through whatever it is that they're doing, regardless of the performance and things. Like when you're embodying character, when you're doing a photo shoot or an album or whatever. So yeah, so that's the latest. If you haven't read the full interview from Interview, I advise you go and do that. Go over on interview.com and look up the interview. I do have it linked over on my website, chrisavalon.com. You could definitely go read it there. If you want to read the full interview, it's a very good interview. So I definitely am looking forward to this new era that we have coming from the Queen of Pop. I definitely want to hear from y'all. What do you guys think of this story regarding everything we talked about? The biopic situation, as well as the whole concept behind the Confessions 2 album and Danceteria and the development of how she got her deal. So all of that, I definitely want to hear from y'all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.